What was that? Peasant? To the shop. Alright guys, for this project, I'm making a crown. I've always wanted one. I cannot explain why. I just want to feel what it feels like to have a crown rest upon my head. I'm kind of thinking something like a Dark Souls crown, something maybe like Sauron would wear, a War King's crown. This is not meant to be comfortable. It has spikes, it stabs into your head. I think a king should feel the weight of his kingdom atop his dome. It should sit there menacingly. Alright, as far as making the crown goes, the plan is simple. Design a crown, one that looks cool or badass. I'll use CAD software to do that, and then I'll move into the next phase, which is 3D printing that design, checking the fit, seeing if I like it. Then the next phase is going to be making a mold. So it's a cope and drag sand casting mold, which will contain the 3D printed model. I'll pack the sand in tight, and I'll open the mold and pull the crown out, the model of it. And then with the open void inside the sand, I'll pour molten metal. That's gonna solidify into the crown, and then I'm gonna finish it up, and that'll be that. And then I'll ascend. Alright, so first thing first, I hopped into OnShape to do the 3D design. I want to do something pretty simple, but still match the aesthetic. So it's two simple ovals with enough room to let the brass kind of like make it around the ring. The spikes are simple hexagons that kind of point inwards. I like hexagons, and I thought it would make a good look. So once those hexagons get extruded up and downwards, we have spikes, and then yeah, it's pretty much time to send it to the printer and get some test fits. I just wanted to print the ring, it'd be faster, so I made the ring bigger, and the ring sits all the way down there, which is kind of like where I wanted it to go. So this is where I felt like I had found the right size, although once I add the spikes, they kind of come onto the inside, and so it's actually not going to sit that low, which is good, and it doesn't. Okay, so then printed the next one. Here we are. The next one is the one that I actually used for the mold, and it has the spikes and it sits pretty nice right there, and I was happy with this one. I think in retrospect I would make it a little bit bigger, but good enough for me. Alright, quick note about sand casting. If you have overhangs, it won't work because you won't be able to pull it out of the sand. So I have a kind of an overhang right here, see this angle? So if I was to bury this entire crown in the sand, it would not work. I would not be able to pull it out. However, if I'm able to bury this part in the sand on one half of the mold and this part in the other half of the mold, I should be able to cleanly cast the entire piece, and I'll be able to extract the entire thing out. So that's what I'm gonna do, and I think it should work. Oh my god, it doesn't stay in at all. Alright, everyone makes mistakes, and the first mold did not work. Did not hold the sand in. It was too slippery, so gotta find a solution. So the shelves that I used to make this mold, the cope and drag, were coated with they had a very slick finish, and that was way too slick to keep the casting sand in the box. So I decided to just go ahead and take this little finishing saw and slice a bunch of grooves into the sides, and that way it would increase the friction and keep the sand in. And it worked. Those grooves were enough to keep the sand in, so the mold is almost ready now. I needed to clean it up, and I also need to, get the actual 3D printed piece out. So I'm tapping on it here to loosen it up and pulling it out. And since I didn't recycle the sand, there was some excess baby powder and stuff in there, so it definitely wasn't a perfect mold. It was kind of falling apart a little bit. You see a couple chunks coming out of there. Those end up as imperfections in the final product, but I think it actually ended up looking pretty cool and added to the worn crown aesthetic I was kind of going for here. So it worked pretty well, and it turns out that the secret to perfection is imperfection. All right, and with that, the mold is complete. So the next phase of the project is get the crucible ready, pick out some spare brass, and get ready to melt it. All right, as far as the raw brass goes, I had a bunch of 22 caliber casings from shooting and some ingots I had made previously. One was kind of a more yellow looking color, and one was kind of a more gold or bronzish looking brass. Yeah, so I thought the mixture of those two colors would make a good crown color, and so that's what I went with. Alright, I wanted to get the brass good and hot for this casting since it's got to go around that ring. So I got it very hot. You can see the zinc is actually boiling off out of the brass, which is typically something you don't want. That's why I'm wearing a respirator, because these fumes can cause metal fume fever. So I have a respirator, and I'm being careful here, but I wanted it to get extremely hot because it does have to flow around that ring of the crown, and the hotter it is, the better it will flow for casting. The stuff I'm scraping out of here is mostly borax that I inserted into the crucible to help collect dust particles and gunpowder and anything else that was on those ingots or casings. Just kind of helps group it together so I can scoop it out, and that way when I pour the metal it'll be nice and liquidy. After bringing the brass back up to pouring temperature, it's time to pour. The pouring appeared to go pretty well, so at this point it had been about 10 minutes and it was time to take a look. Oh. It's fit for a king, baby. I can't be more happy than how it turned out. It's definitely not perfect, but that's okay. And so the next phase is to go ahead and cut those sprues off so that I can clean it up and put it on atop of my head. All right, here it is, the finished product. I love the way it turned out. It looks beautiful. Its imperfections make it so cool. It looks war-torn. It looks everything like I wanted it to be. It's a Dark Souls Sauron crown, and it's time to wear it. All right, the only thing left is to put it on. What was that? Peasant? This is who I am now. See it glisten? Huh? See that? See that? This is too fun, man. I think I need to take this thing back off. I'm acting crazy with this on. Boy, that was different. Something about that crown. I think I blacked out. I don't even remember what just happened, but anyways, this project was a lot of fun. I really liked making it. I like wearing it even more. And yeah, I have plenty of more stuff coming up. There's more casting videos. I have some cool stuff I want to make. And I also have some electronics and some homemade gardening equipment, I guess. That sounds pretty lame, but I promise it's actually pretty cool. So stay tuned for that, and I'm going to try and get those videos out pretty soon. All right. Thanks for watching, y'all. Peace. I almost forgot. Like and subscribe. Why make a crown, you say? Or maybe you don't say. I certainly didn't say. What did you just say?